Motherfuckers. We got the Wells little compound MX rain mode right here. Got us a mud track, boys. So, wanted to come here and do a track review on this one because you don't see a lot of these mud tracks on MX Simulator. It's actually quite the rare thing, kind of like an enduro track in this game, or like a trail track or whatever. They're both kind of somewhat of the same rarity. You see a lot more standard motocross tracks, standard supercross tracks, stuff like that, than you will like a 50cc track or a mud track or something really cool and different. So I like to come in here and check out for sure any of the ones that are really different like this. And I think this one's actually quite well made overall. You're going to get a really cool on the ground mud traction feeling. Like you're really going to feel like it's a very, very different physics feeling on the bike, right? Because when you have this different of a traction and a tile map, it's going to be like totally different on how the bike is going to react in the corners, how it's going to slide, how you're going to have throttle control and more leaning control than, say being on like some random modern RF track or whatever. It's got really good traction on it. This is way more, it really does change the game in a way that you don't realize at the beginning, man. It's pretty cool how you can do that. And he's got obviously the whole rain falling on the track, which is really cool as well. The first times I ever really saw that was way back in the day. It used to be on my top 5 list on a track I had way back. I can't even think of it off the top of my head. He made like 2 or 3 tracks, and he had a rain track. That was the first time I ever actually seen the rain, where you could like do the rain falling. It's a sequence file in there. This one actually looks a little bit different. Like I think this Wells guy might have came in here and made his own one, because I've actually used that other dude's rain sequence file on my track before, and it looked slightly different than this. So I don't know if that's even the same one. I'm kind of getting the impression that it's not. I think he actually went in here and made his own rain sequence file. So, but you can make anything. You can make rain falling, you can make snow falling, you can make, ash, weird like particle effects, whatever the hell you want to make. You can do a lot with the editor of this game, and a lot of people don't really understand that, but kind of cool when you get on one of these like slick mud tracks when you're trying to scrub off of jump faces, because it's pretty much just like a natural, give you a little bit less stability over the jump face just by the traction of it, so you can really get that bike leaned over and whipped around pretty well. So kind of cool right through here. Let me back this up just a little bit. Look right there to the left. Say it's actually got a little bit of a water pond right there, like not a pond, obviously. Good God, Spencer, it's an ocean, it's a lake, boys. Oh God, you can like barely sit right there to the left. See that, just a little bit of water right there. I don't know where. Like, did he put a whole statue right there and then just barely exposed it? Kind of be hard to imagine that he would have done it like that, but it looks really cool. Like, just looks like a little bitty mud hole, you know what I'm saying, with a little bit of water in it. So either way, nice little pond right here to the left. Lakes, oceans, ponds, puddles. You know what it is, boys. Oh, God. But you can have a hell of a lot of time on mud tracks that have this kind of cool traction. This reminds me of that older track I was talking about. Damn, give me a second, guys. I'll figure out what that track is. NFMX Mud. That's the track I was trying to think of back in the day. It actually had the whole lightning effect as well, going down the background. You guys know I've used that. I've used that old rain effect from the NFMX Mud in my, Rainforest Trail track. I've used the lightning effect in my Bermuda Triangle rhythm track. And so I do actually think this is a little bit of a different, this looks like a little bit bigger rain droplets than that one had on it, which I'm not saying this one's bad or anything, but I think this is actually different from that. But of course that NFMX mud track came out like multiple years ago. I'm talking three plus years ago, something like that. So that was the first time I had ever actually seen like a full-blown rain mud track like that with a really solid mud traction and stuff. But yeah, this would be really cool, riding on a track like this and actually being able to have that forced roost and having it come up on your goggles in first person, having to tear off in the mud. I think that makes it a lot bigger of a fun feeling, makes you really feel like you're in mud in a game when you have all of that on a mud track specifically versus just like a normal dirt vibe track, you know what I'm saying? But either way, not bad. I mean, as far as the jumps and stuff, he's got a whole freaking compound right here. I'm just reviewing this particular track with the particular mud, 'cause I think you can actually ride on this track with no mud and normal traction, like sunshine on it as well. He's got like a mud and a, normal dirt version of each one of these tracks here. So definitely makes it interesting. This track still is pretty hittable on all the jumps, even though that mud's giving you a lot of friction, a lot of slide, a lot of spin coming out of the corners. They're not so massive that you can't hit them when you got the mud mode on, so you can definitely tell he's put a lot of thought into that, right? He thought about how much slower the mud traction is going to make you, and he made it to where you can still get around the track. You're going to have to be a little bit more on it, a little bit more leaning back, a little bit more thinking about your jump ahead of time before you hit it. But now if you're on a 250, it's going to be a little harder to hit this stuff, right? In the mud, but if it's in the dry version, you could definitely probably hit it on a 250. So, but you need to be on a 450 in the mud on this thing if you really want to hit some of this stuff. Now, this big huck, I actually forgot about this when I was coming around here. I was like, oh, shit. Forgot about that one, dog. That's like a little bit of a weird backwards tabletop. Like, typically, a jump would be the backwards way, where you would, like, have a single and then a tabletop, and you jump plumb over the tabletop, versus a tabletop, then a bizarre single at the end. Makes it like, if you don't hit that puppy 100% perfect, you're not coming out of it at all. So, but yeah, overall, not a bad track, and he's got these cool, multiple different types of trees in the background. He's definitely filled in the off track with this grass billboard everywhere. He's got a cool, like, you can see the difference from the on-track decal and the right of the off-track decal. Then it goes to that grass decal out there. So it's kind of got, at least 2 or 3, 4 different layered decals going down through there. It gives it a very nice feeling. And, yeah, it's cool. I just kind of mixed all that around together. It's got another one right here. I didn't even realize that, but this is the same thing. So you got like a tabletop, and then like a single landing past it, which is super dangerous. You know what I mean? Like in real life, a lot of times they just don't build jumps like this unless you're on a really, really pro level track because of the danger element of it. Typically, you have a single and then a tabletop, so if you come up short, you land on top of the tabletop instead of landing like on the straight up and down back side of that last single, or the front side of that last single, you know what I'm saying? But all pretty fun sliding through here, and then you got this tabletop. Jump up over. It's kind of like not really a tabletop, kind of sort of tabletop-y, double-y, some shit. And then you come around here, you got, you notice being in the mud in this game, mud traction like this, and of course, some of you guys that don't know MX Simulator, there's a plethora of different mud tractions that you can make. Just because I'm saying mud traction in this track has this certain traction, that's not the quote-unquote mud traction on every mud track. You understand what I'm saying? You go in there and you literally make the traction by like coding numbers. So you can make like freaking every little element of the friction and the roll resist and the every little bit of it like numbers wise. So you could make 1,000, 1,000,000 different mud tractions in this game. You understand what I'm saying? So they can all be a little bit different in how they feel. So just because you feel this mud traction, don't think this is like how every mud traction is on everything. This is kind of cool over here. Got little lights and whatnot. That may be like a little trail area or something. But yeah, I like the multiple tree vibe he's got going on. Kind of got like a pine tree going on, and this other tree over here. So that's definitely brings her all together, not just having that one singular off-track tree. That can definitely be a little bit weird when a track is like that, kind of kills some of that realism. But what I was going to say is you learn a lot of, like when you get on a mud track, how much more important it is to carry momentum and like swing plumb around to, the outside of a berm. It's actually more worth it on a mud track versus a dry track. Typically on a dry track, you're trying to cut to the inside in every single corner. The inside 99.99% of the time is always going to be the fastest line. But when you start talking about mud and you try to whip it up the inside of a corner and you start spinning and you lose all your momentum, then it's not as worth it. So it really does, force you to kind of change up lines when you have this more slick vibe traction. Now, overall, it's not like super slimy. You know how sometimes mud can be like literally just lose your front end instantly? It's not to that level. and I've rode on a lot of that in real life, and I've also rode on a lot of like deep mud. This is kind of like a bit of a mixture of deep mud and a little bit of slickness on the top, but not a whole lot. That's kind of what it feels like to me. But that's just my personal interpretation of it. So, it's not like super, super slick or anything like that, but it does have a little, it's not like just mud either. You know what I'm saying? I kind of get the vibe like it's, like deep mud, like it's been raining for 2 or 3 days. So you've got that deep, deep mud vibe going, but it's actually currently raining as well while you're riding on it. So it's got a little bit of slick on the top. That's kind of what the vibe I'm getting from this whole track design. Look at the sliding coming in that corner. Oh God, it's definitely gives you a fun feeling, man. Definitely gives you a real. You know how mud in real life, it gives you a certain like you're on edge. You know what I'm saying? Gives you that certain excitement level that you just constantly feel like you could spin out or crash the bike, and so you kind of got to be balls to the wall, just gassing it blindly, hitting crap. If you want to go fast in mud, that's the way mud works, right? So it gives you a completely fun, different way to play the game like this that I really want to see more tracks do this. And so I really love when any track maker wants to come in here and make a mud version of anything. I'm all about that shit, dog. I like that kind of stuff because it's different, you don't see this every day. And the on-track of this is a lot of fun, too. A lot of fun, different lines, well-made on-track, whether it's the dry or the mud version of it. You can still hit a lot of these big lines. It's not like, oh, that mud version, way too hard to hit anything because I have no traction. It's not really like that, man. He made his jumps. He built them around the mud. He really did. If you're on a 450, cool objects and stuff out here because it's the full compound. You got that like cool mansion vibe house going on over there. Nice skybox. Really cool. Don't know if I've ever seen this in MXM before. A lot of cool stuff going on. Definitely a well put together mud design filling here. So overall, I'm going to give this puppy like I'm going to have to give it like a 9 overall, right? That's kind of where I'm at on it. So yeah, I got to be a little more careful just shooting out my 10s like I have beforehand. I used to give out 10s like crazy, but now that I've reviewed 200 plus tracks, whether it be from MX Simulator, Reflex, or whatever. I've reviewed a lot of tracks out there, and the more you review stuff, the more you learn what's really a 10 and what's really not a 10. And just because I'm giving this thing a 9 doesn't mean if you give it a 10 that I think you're wrong. It's not really like that. It's just, I don't know. I feel like a 10 is, I've got to keep that a little more sacred. You know what I'm saying? I've got to keep that a little bit more for the best of the absolute best of the, you get what I'm saying? And this track is really, really, really good in a lot of different ways. Traction's fucking awesome for mud. Jumps are awesome. The off track is amazing. A lot of really cool stuff going on here. I mean, shit, I'd probably give it like a 9.5 if I could, but just, I don't know. I got to be more careful giving out 10s on tracks in this game. I really do. Not only does it have to be an amazing track all the way around, but I personally have to just absolutely love it and think it's like one of the best tracks ever. At the same time, simultaneously, for me to give it a 10 at this point. So that's kind of where I'm at on the whole 9 yards of it. But it is not a bad track by any stretch of the imagination. Any of you guys can have some fun on this. Really fun, not even riding with any road on this thing. Fun, still doing it like that. The rain gives you just enough of a kind of a visual impairing effect, but not too much. Keeps it kind of cool like that. So either way, boys, that's where I'm at on it. Difficulty, definitely hard on this thing. I wouldn't go quite as far as Pastrana, but it's hard if you're not really used to MX Simulator, you're not used to that slide mud traction on here. It's tricky, man. There's no doubt about it when you really start getting on the gas, but it's not as tricky as I've seen some tractions. Like I say, it's kind of got a bit more of a deep vibe. Like if you get into a corner or whatever on here, you're going to slide some, but it's not like uncontrollable, like you can definitely kind of start recognizing how it's going to slide and start kind of pre-preparing before you hit a corner, how you need to lean when you start learning the traction of this track so you can kind of get used to it a little bit. Once you do that, it's not hard at all, really, if you know the game and you kind of know how to control the bike in slide mud conditions like that. So either way, sick track, dog, for sure. Appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.